Hello, everybody, and welcome to Champagne Sundays with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Well, today's show, we're going from England to Italy. We're going to start off with Sandtimer. It's an indie folk band. I would say indie folk rock band. Oh, I have to be careful how I said that. That came out almost really wrong.
Welcome to Sunday.
Sandtimer, an indie folk rock band from Surrey, England. They're joining us. Robert Sword and Simon Thomas. Very cool band. The music is awesome. It's personal. It's just really good melodies, good musicianship. As soon as you hear it, you're gonna get addicted to it. It's good stuff, yeah. And then we're gonna chat with Gabrielle-euvino about her book, What They Didn't Teach You in Italian Class: Slang Phrases for the Cafe, Club, Bar, Bedroom, Ball Game, and More. There's all kinds of words in that book. Let me tell you. I don't know if we can say half of them on the show, but I think I started off that way. I've been reading too much of her book. It's fun. And it really gets you to understand.
Valuable.
Very valuable. I know people travel for spring break, and especially students going over. Number one, when you go and travel, one of the best things to do is to go sit in a bar or a cafe, and then you get to meet the locals. But understanding the language, I think, really comes from understanding the culture that you're visiting. So she really goes into that in her book.
Well, there's also, you and I have lived in several different places and have made the mistake of repeating a phrase that someone told us meant this, but it really meant that.
Yes.
It's good to have a book when you can go check up on it.
Yes, Nancy.
Yes, I know.
I remember Nancy at a press function standing up. It was for her art. This was in South Africa, and when we first got there, they taught Nancy this saying. It's called.
Well, this director of tourism taught me
yes,
this.
of South Africa. Wat doen jou pisang in my vruchtensla? That means, what's your banana doing in my fruit salad? And she stood up to everyone and said, I learned my first South African or Afrikaans saying and said that to everybody. So, yeah, you needed the book.
It was so embarrassing,
you needed
but
the
it
book.
was really funny.
It is funny. It is.
But if I had a book, now I would go check. But when you get normal language books, they don't show you all the good words. I mean, the swear words.
She does.
That's what's valuable
yeah,
about that.
I get to say culo.
Well, welcome to Mexico again.
All right, speaking of fruit salad, happy International Waffle Day, everybody. It's March 25th, 2018. You're listening to Big Blend Radio Champagne Sundays Variety Show. We're streaming live from Tucson, Arizona, and we're your hosts, Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith, the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of two digital interactive magazines. We've got Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. It's our variety lifestyle publication covering everything from art and music to travel to history, food, wine, family, nature, gardening. Mm-hmm. It's all in there. It's good stuff. And also we publish Parks and Travel Magazine, and that covers parks and travel. Parks and Travel Magazine you can check out at nationalparktraveling.com, and you can also check out the Big Blend Magazine. Go to blendradioandtv.com. That also has our schedule for radio shows, which air live here on Blog Talk Radio Sunday through Friday, Monday through Thursday. We air at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Fridays and Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. But it's time to do our champagne toast. This is our family tradition. Every Sunday, we raise a glass to something good, and it can be tea. It doesn't have to be champagne. It could be beer. It could be apple cider, like Steve Schneikert, our Hollywood historian, likes. So it could be any of it, but it's about looking for the good. So, Nancy, you've got a glass half full there. you need a top up. Yeah, you need a top up. It seems like you're already happy.
I'm very happy.
Okay, so what are you raising your glass to today?
Today I would like to toast our youth who are standing proud, standing together, sending a strong and very needed message to our people in places.
Supposedly
higher places. Be very careful here.
Uh-oh.
I commend them for their strength and purpose and their willingness to put themselves out there And I think anybody that opposes their viewpoint, that's fine. That's what this country's about. But you don't need to do anything mean about it. You don't have to call them names. You don't have to do all the things that some people are doing. You should look at them and realize we were supposed to be our children's future, and they shouldn't have a future being scared to go to school. And that rests with us as adults.
Mm-hmm.
It rests with our so-called leadership. It rests with us. So when the kids speak up, it's time to listen, and I commend them for the strength and their willingness to do that. Here's to them, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And sorrow to all the families who have lost children before this message started to be heard.
It's almost, the stats are now like
It's crazy.
kids are shot
It's
a
out
day.
of control.
A day, two a day, lost through shootings. And there's definitely a debate going on, but it's a necessary issue that has to be solved. And it's something serious. Nancy and I have lost loved ones to gunfire. And it's not an easy thing to go through. And
No, it's
for
not.
those on the family side and the friends and, getting through this, the healing process takes a long time. And so hugs to all of them out
I
there.
just would like to remind all of us that this country was founded on the idea that both sides get to have a say. All sides
Yes.
get to have a say.
So let's do it respectfully.
So let's do it without calling people names and putting fuel to the fire instead of looking for a way to solve the problems.
Right
and if you
on.
don't think there's a problem, you need to look again.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously a problem. So I commend our youth.
Right on. They rock.
And may they stay safe.
Exactly. I'm going to toast to spring here in the desert.
All the animals are doing things.
Yeah, we went out hiking in Saguaro National Park in our backyard here in Tucson, and we've got the sentinel of the desert is the saguaro cactus. And, yesterday we saw wildflowers start to bloom and hummingbirds, and, everything was alive. And there's something about getting up super early in the morning and getting out to nature and watching everything wake up, including the sky.
And
saying
play
hello.
together.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's so worth getting up super early before the sun rises, getting out there and enjoying that peace and solitude. And so I toast spring because, hey, it's the change of season. It's the rebirth of what happened in winter. You see green, you see flowers, but it also reminds us that there's always change. And so it goes to me with what Nancy's saying, toasting our youth, because youth are like the spring in the cycles of nature. They remind us that rebirth can happen, and innocence, and just this beauty of enjoying life. And so I toast to spring in the desert and to wildflowers and blossoming into something good and positive.
I like that. I just want to remind you that when you see all those rabbits running around and you say they're running in circles, that's not really what they're up
I know.
to.
They're being bunnies. Okay.
Like, oh, look, the bunnies are playing. I'm like, well, not really.
All right. So Sundays, a lot of times wake up and you go, okay, like I had a good time last night, and then the morning comes and you're like, uh-oh, what am I doing next week? I'm going to be better than what I did over the weekend. Our next guest joining us, our first guest on the show, Rob and Simon from Sandtimer. Their latest single is called New Year Morning, and of course we all know that feeling in the new year. Especially when I was younger, I did. But I think it's something to always think about it. I think it goes with spring. It really makes you think about where we're going, what are we doing, and how we feel in life, and who we are. So take a listen to New Year Morning, and we'll bring them on the show. And as soon as the song is over, and check them out. They're on Facebook under Sandtimer, Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Twitter, all of that good stuff. So here it is, New Year Morning.
always think of everyone. You've got the least to prove. How wrong you are. How wrong you are. You always think of everyone. You've got the least to lose. How wrong you are. Look in the mirror.
You're listening to Big Blend Radio, Champagne Sunday Show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard New Year Morning by Sandtimer, a UK-based indie folk rock group, and it features Robert Sword and Simon Thomas. Keep up with them on SoundCloud, Bandcamp. They're on Twitter. They're under Facebook. Website is sandtimer-band.weebly.com. And look under Sandtimer Music, and you can also find them as Sandtimer-band, like I was saying on Twitter. So welcome, Rob. How are you?
Hey Lisa, hey Nancy. Very well, thanks. Yeah, we're enjoying
good.
this lovely spring evening here in the UK. Yeah.
Well, happy spring to you. We're having a sunny Tucson hot spring over here. Welcome, Simon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, we're really glad to be here. We're
glad
may have been waiting
here.
an hour early because of the clock changes, which we didn't know about, but it was worth the wait for sure.
Well, you made it. We're really glad.
Yeah.
We love your music. There's such a sensibility to it, and it's touching, heartfelt. It just really connects as soon as you hear it. And I remember when I first found out about you, we connected online and everything, and I didn't even finish listening to the first half of a song, and I was like, you guys got to come on our show. We loved it. It really connects, and I think that we need music like that really just personally connects. It's tender. It just you just connect with the words, the lyrics, everything, just the melody, and I love the harmonies too, the harmonies that you're creating vocally and then also musically with your instruments. Rob, tell us about the formation of your band, because isn't it part of it is the harmony factor of how you guys all connected?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it started, we started off just, me and Simon just playing as a sort of duo a couple of times. And we'd sort of, I tried to start a band a couple of times and sort of, it was just really tricky to kind of arrange the rehearsals and things. And I had kind of like an idea of like what sort of music we could create and things. And as soon as we kind of sat there and started playing the songs on 2 acoustic guitars and working out some harmonies and things, that was kind of like the crystallizing moment for the project, I guess. And since then, we've sort of built on that, and sort of adding in more harmonies and ultimately more instruments as well.
It's layered and it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
I really, it's like
Thanks
you can
so
listen
much.
to that over and over and over and find something new every time.
I want to drive when I listen to your music. It's like road trip music, and you always think like Led Zeppelin, and then you think Highway to Hell. Which one should we go? Stairway to Heaven or Hell? No, but but when road trip music for us is there's that, especially because we travel to a lot of parks and those kind of natural areas. And it's music that makes you reflect on your life. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something where you connect that fast and makes you really think and not beat yourself up when you realize, like, I should have done this instead. You know what I mean?
To go wrong.
Yeah. But to get the layers, like what Nancy's saying, is so cool to do. But Simon, let's talk about your voice. I mean, dude, how do you go low like that?
How low can you go?
Dude.
Years of training. No, my voice broke when I was 11, so it just went down and down from there.
Wow.
If you interview me in a year, you might not be able to hear me. I'll be off the frequency.
Leonard Cohen style.
Wow. I mean, you take alto to a whole other. I mean, that's not alto, is it? Does that go lower? Like, it's like bass. Yeah, but you're a bass player too. So like.
Do you compete?
Yeah. So
Actually, we do tend to try and just put like really low melodies into songs, actually, just to see how sort of low we can get, I guess.
How low can you go?
That's right.
Yeah, like a kind of musical limbo.
But now, Simon, you're playing bass and singing at the same time.
I'm playing guitar and singing. We have a bassist, Rachel, and yeah, she kind of entered the band about a year ago. But I've actually never played bass in this band. I played bass in me and Rob tend to sort of split the recording of the bass. But I used to play bass. It was my first guitar-based instrument, and so I kind of learnt the acoustic guitar from that, which is why I ended up playing solos with like bass singers, and it looks a bit stupid, but it kind of works for me.
No, when we had a band in San Diego years and years ago, and it's interesting because it was playing bass, because we were in blues and that kind of thing, and playing bass. I learned it from like this crazy guitarist. Like he's like, sometimes when you start playing in different bands, like you realize just how crazy some musicians are, and you go like, I don't know if I can be around this that long, or maybe I can, because it's really like, this is odd.
Funny.
Yeah, but he had like stolen cars in the backyard and stuff that we found out. So that's a different thing. And then like introduced us to our acoustic guitar player to not to be a rapist. So that was great. But it was like a crazy band. But I did learn a lot of like some basic blues runs from him, and it transformed how I wrote songs. And it kind of brought things back to this simplicity in music. Do you find that helps by knowing how to play bass? And then also you, Rob, because playing, piano, you've got to learn the bass too. But Simon, does that help you now as a guitarist and singer?
I mean, I guess it must do, really. It probably means that I play a lot of the guitar parts just on kind of one note, as you would with a bass guitar, and it does allow you to focus just on one line, which is, although we are all about sort of big harmonies and everything, we sometimes try to end up going overboard on our recordings. So I think more recently we have been trying to strip things back, like you would if you were just kind of, I don't know, just playing one melody line on the guitar, and we try and sort of emphasize that a bit more, and not always just end up with 3 harmonies and 4 guitars and everything, and just having sort of, because I guess there's too much of a good thing.
I think when you're trying to get a message across, that it's kind of like you make a statement and then everything else is backing it up. If you try to make a statement with everything all at one time, you really got to be careful, because it could get real.
You've lost dynamic.
Cluttered, and the message gets lost. And so it's kind of. And you've got that, I think, where you're making a statement and then you back it up, and then you make the statement again and you back it up. And that's what makes it easy to remember your melody and lyrics.
It's the rhythm. You do it in your rhythm.
Yeah. And I think you got it down.
I guess it's like if you're making an argument or something, you don't just say everything at once. You
don't play all your hands.
No, you got to leave the big punch
it
for the
doesn't just
end.
all come out in word form. It kind of you have to construct it, and I guess that's a very important part of songwriting that we're trying to focus on, or trying to make sure we don't go overboard with.
Because that's what I think it is so beautiful, is that when I say it connects, like, you feel like you're listening to the stories of your life, and if it's that simple part of it, like but at the same time, we know it's not simple. You know what I mean? But if you can connect immediately, then you are able to be part of that process as a listener, and that's the thing. And I love some of the music. I know that you have it on your bio and everything, that there's this Appalachian sound to it, and there is, and it's interesting because there is kind of this Celtic side, Appalachian, very solid singer-songwriter style, and then a little bit of rock in there. So you managed to bring these together. And I find it interesting, Robert, your background too, from being a classically trained pianist. I mean, that's interesting because now you're playing guitars, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it was funny actually with piano, because like for a long time I was quite not exactly like stubborn exactly, but I was really wanting to kind of learn to sort of write songs on the piano and things. And so I spent a lot of time, sitting at the piano trying to write kind of songs with words and everything. And I found that for some reason the piano just didn't seem like quite the right vehicle for that. And then it was sort of hearing all these sort of like field recordings of musicians from sort of West Virginia and things and stuff like that, and a lot of kind of lo-fi recordings from the 90s and things, like Pavement and Beck and things like that, which just sort of, it was all these recordings that sort of people had sort of just done in quite a kind of slapdash way, and that it was quite nice just learning guitar to sort of try and emulate that style.
Do you think that being trained in classical music is maybe where a little bit of a block can occur? I mean, I know that I learned to sight read and play piano, and then when we had our band, everybody else was playing by ear, and I was like, I need music, and to cross over to being able to play by ear was really, really hard because I was so trained that I had to have music, and I didn't have to memorize because it's right there, And so sometimes I think that that's kind of it can be a block. Not that people shouldn't learn to do it, but it just seems that maybe sometimes you play by ear and then go learn to sight read or be classically trained might be better.
Yeah, I feel like playing by ear is definitely a skill that it definitely helps with music a lot. I think it was actually kind of how I tended to learn music, even when I was just playing piano. I found that learning my sight reading was always quite bad, and then so I had to kind of make up for it by getting a really good memory of how the song was meant to sound, and then sort of working it out from there. So I think it does kind of lend itself to that more organic way of making music, of sort of kind of maybe taking an idea, adding to it, developing it in some way, improvisation and things like that. It sort of helps with all of that.
I always thought it for me, I was a singer. I always used it because I would be terrible at words because maybe I had too many cocktails at that time. I don't know, just saying. But there was this time where I had to remember, what the biggest lesson was to remember your words was you're telling the story. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I learned that, then the whole world opened up. Then my soul was out there. Then I was wearing everything. My heart was out. It was, to me, always this emotional journey, not necessarily personal, but you're connecting with the story. Do you feel that way, Simon, when you sing?
Oh God, sorry, just having some microphone. It's kind of moving around. Yeah, I really try to, because I guess sometimes when you're performing a lot, it tends to happen on tours. You kind of play a song so many times that you start to just have it in your almost like muscle memory, and you forget actually what you're singing about. So it's quite nice to take a step back before you start playing a song, and you actually think what you're singing about, and that really helps me definitely to just give a much better performance all round, and I enjoy it a lot more.
I was going to say, you said the word tour. That's one of our favorite words. Is touring. We've done a lot of touring ourselves, and it's not as a band.
Great.
We don't do that anymore. Now we just get to chat with musicians, and we love that because we know how hard it is. But it's exciting. Really hard. No, but I think what's so exciting about now is there was a time where independent music wasn't able to be at the forefront, and now I think the internet does help touring musicians, and you have to tour. You can't. I think you have to do both, But there's more avenues, and yet at the same time, the industry totally sucks in a lot of ways with what's happening on the internet and corporations and all that good stuff. But the touring part is interesting. You talk about, I know that you tour England, you've done Germany recently, Western Canada, and you're coming back to Western Canada, back onto the Northern America front lines here. But tell us about England and touring England in your region. What's it like? What's the music scene like? Are you playing pubs? Are you playing clubs? Festivals? What's happening with that?
we're doing a bit of everything, I guess. We've sort of been performing for about 3 or 4 years now.
Oh yeah. Coming up to that now.
Yeah, every time we kind of think about it, and we realise that we've got to add another one to that number. Yeah, but in England, it tends to be that there's so much music because it's a small island or a small country, and there's so many people that are just inspired by. I mean, there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot of great music that comes from this country as well. So everyone kind of fancies their chances, I guess, which is great. But it means that you're always playing with new people every time. It doesn't really feel that much like a circuit because there's new people every time you play a gig, and at times that can be great. But at times you kind of just feel like you're in this massively overwhelming kind of ocean of musicians all trying to do exactly the same thing as you. And it's I guess that's part of the fun of it, really. And but we tend to.
Go ahead.
Also, yeah, I was going to say we tend to play mainly in pubs, and kind of they'll normally have like a kind of concert venue at the back of these pubs and bars in London and places like that. But our favourite kind of gigs will be ones where I guess the audience is kind of very close to us, and maybe it doesn't have to be that many people, but we can just actually when audiences want to hear the stories that we tell about our songs and things like that. They're the kind of best concerts we play, and the best kind of environment for that so far has been Canada or perhaps Germany at times as well. It's not so
Germany
much like
is good about music. They're good about it. They're really a lot of our friends tour over there, and actually Johnny Master and the Mama's Boys are out there right now, and it's really interesting the amount of respect for the arts comes out of there, and Europe, I mean, including England. The States, definitely we have that, but we're fighting trying to keep the arts funded, even in schools and things like that. It's so important. But I think, just going back to your talking about, the pubs and those intimate venues, because I think your music's very intimate. It's, like I said, it's very personal, and it's that connectivity. I think those are always the coolest thing, because you can see how audience react to your music. There's that energy that happens in a room, and you can pick up on it and see, the different expressions. Do you see when you're performing, are you seeing people react in a different way than maybe the way you wrote it?
Sometimes, I guess. Yeah, it kind of depends on the song actually, and also like the environment as well. So like there are a couple of songs which I guess are written in, they're sort of quite maybe reflective songs, or they're sort of quite existential and everything. And there was a gig recently actually, and it was quite nice. But like we were playing this song, and people were sort of dancing to it and things, and it turned into a bit of a kind of shuffle, and that was actually really nice. Like it was quite nice to like, a song that was originally written about sort of anxiety, not sort of in a sort of clinical sense, but just general anxiety about like the world or whatever. It was nice to actually see like something quite joyful coming out of that.
Oh, that's nice.
Once when our band was playing, we played Mustang Sally, and
sound check.
And
I love
people
that
got
song.
up and did a conga line to it, and we lost it.
Yeah,
we just thought that was the
our bass player was on the
knees.
Yeah.
Seen. It was like, okay.
All right. Yeah, we're just doing a sound check because they let people in early into the venue. They let people in. It was a horse camp.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of the desert in Southern California, in this horse camp, and the band was doing a sound check in the hall, and all of a sudden they're like, everyone's getting dinner, and we're like, oh, nice, great, We're not ready. We don't even want to talk to anybody.
That was so funny.
But it was, and that was the beginning of a crazy, crazy night. I want to talk about Rusting Towers. This is, and it's got such a cool bridge in there too. It's like totally unexpected. Tell us a little bit about this song, because to me it feels like you're just letting go in a way. It's just like this. It's like, okay, you could have New Year morning, and then Rusting Towers says, "That's it. No, we're just letting go. We're going to forget about it."
Yeah, Rusting Towers. It's yeah. Actually, funnily enough, that's the song I was sort of mentioning just then. Actually, that we were sort of we were playing, and it got this kind of reaction. Yeah, so that song actually was I wrote it like when I graduated from university, and it was just in the sort of holidays. Well, I guess the end of term or whatever, immediately after that. And I was actually sitting on this boat going to this, or I think going back from this kind of island where I'd like been at the sort of party and things, and just looking out at the sea and seeing these kind of rusting. I don't know if you get them, but they're these kind of forts out to sea. I don't know what they're to do with, like surveillance of ocean patterns or something.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But yeah, that song was kind of very much about like the sort of, I guess, being kind of a bit worried about the future and not knowing exactly how to kind of take it on, and but yeah, trying to draw some kind of like sort of hope from that, or make it into a kind of more common experience that people can kind of relate to.
Well, let's play it for everybody. Cool. You guys can stay on for this?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's play it, everyone. Rusting Towers, again, the Sandtimer-band, out of Surrey, England. We've got to talk about that. We want to know what Surrey is like. Who knows? We might have been there. Again, their music, where's it best placed? Because I know you're all over social media, on Twitter at Sandtimer-band, Facebook Sandtimer-music. But for people to purchase your music, what's the best place?
Oh, so we're on Bandcamp, and that is let me just check. I think it's Sandtimer-band.
It's sandtimermusic.bandcamp.com. I got my notes
Sandtimer-music. Yeah.
Okay, so bandcamp.com is the place, everybody, to check them out. All right, so here it is, Rusting Towers. Enjoy.
Out of this, what can you possibly think? Am I getting out of this? Rusting towers stand out on the way. I don't know if it's just there, but I swear it hums more than it says. And I feel I'm letting go. I feel I'm letting go of the things I used to know. How can you possibly if I thought that I would getting anywhere? What can you possibly fade if I thought it would stay long? Anything out there? Wish there was some way that I could know before. Just so easy to stay with the ghosts that are hanging on the shore. I feel I'm letting go. I feel I'm letting go of the things I used to know. I feel I'm letting go. I feel I'm letting go of the things I used to know. I've been throwing stones down the wall all my life. I was waiting for the sound, but never hit the side. I've been throwing stones down the wall all my life. I was waiting for the sound, but never hit the side. Rusting towers stand out on the way. Rusting towers stand out on the ways, the ways, the ways, the ways. I would face that every day if I thought that I would leave so much. I would watch that last light fade if I thought it would stay long enough. The
Everyone, you're listening to Big Blend Radio, Champagne Sunday Show with Nancy and Lisa, and you just heard Rusting Towers by Sandtimer, a UK-based indie folk rock group. And we've got Robert Sword and Simon Thomas with us, and keep up with the band at sandtimermusic.bandcamp.com. Guys, I tell you what, you want to get rowdy in a bar with that. You do, in a pub in your area. Like there's this part, like I feel like almost like the Proclaimers and the Dropkick Murphys got together and just said, "Oi, matey!"
I like that.
I don't know. There's like a pirate song in there.
Yeah. We get that, like, I think it's because of that, I Would Walk 500 Miles. It's got, like, a really similar beat to it. So it's like, that's come up that comparison's come up quite a lot, actually. But yeah, we always tend to, like, close our shows with that song. And, it usually gets, like...
People don't normally expect it to do what it does. It's kind of just quite a melancholic song until halfway through, and then, and then we just kind of lose it halfway through. And if it's an audience of people that if they're sort of just having a chat or something, everyone always is suddenly looking at us, and it's a great moment just kind of to get everyone's attention.
And I always get
like,
really,
really nervous
about
that. Everybody.
Exactly.
I really want to ask this question. Have either one of you watched the movie The Commitments?
Yeah, I've watched that actually. What's the book? Roddy Doyle.
It was
wasn't
about in Ireland, the Irish band that wanted to play with Wilson Pickett and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So there's a scene in that movie where the guy who started the band is in the bathtub taking a bath.
Terry.
And he's pretending he's being interviewed on the radio. Yeah. And so he asks himself questions and then he answers it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wondered if either one of you have practiced doing that.
And what would your question? I want to know your question.
Yeah.
Your question to yourself.
That's yeah. I think like, I think in Germany actually, because we were doing these kind of radio interviews, and I think I was like quite nervous about it because we hadn't really done spoken interviews at that stage, and I can't remember the questions that I asked. I think I just sort of I practiced like talking like ad-libbing or whatever, but without any specific question in mind. So it's yeah. sort of like
I like that. That's
cool.
it. Quote. I practice talking without living. I love that. That's the best. I love it. No, you guys are cool. I want to know if your music. Do you want to see it in movies? Because I see it in movies just because it's so visual to me. Like I go places with it. So do you see it being part of like documentaries or movies or even TV shows?
I'd absolutely love it to be in like feature and films and stuff. I think I was watching this film again for like the probably like the sixth time or something I've seen it. But there's a film called Boyhood, directed by Richard Linklater, and the soundtrack to that, I really sort of thought, oh, actually it'd be really nice to like have some music in a film like that, and something kind of visualized. So I guess
it would have to be a film that kind of follows, I guess, just life rather than maybe not something that's like really plot driven, but just more something that just is someone going through a month of their life or even a day of their life. I guess just that's kind of what our music is based upon. We kind of, I guess the whole project started on the concept of time, which is why, hence our name is Sandtimer, and everything kind of, when we think about it, all of our songs eventually relate back to just time and our sort of constant battle with it and our acceptance of it as it passes and everything like that. So I think that kind of movie, I'm not sure who would direct that. Maybe Linklater or I'm trying to think of some other directors.
Quentin Tarantino, because you could get killed.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great to feature in the film and maybe get killed
Can you imagine
at the moment the song starts playing.
Oh my God! You actually would be kind of trippy.
See this big like hourglass in the time. The grains of time are drifting away. You have 5 seconds left. What are you going to do with your life?
Yeah, these are the days of your life. No, but it is very coming of age, and I think that's what's so cool is we're in such a rushed society and competitive, and I think it's so important to remember what we're here to do and who we are. And when music gets to you that way, I think it's just an important message, and it's grounding. That's the word. Your music's grounding. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
Oh, that's very kind.
Yeah.
Except for Simon, it might be the rhythm of the ocean. Does that help? Since you studied oceanography, that's what you graduated in, and tell us about that. Are you out at sea, or splashing around the rusting towers?
That's actually more. I guess it's more coincidental because I think Rob might have written that. He wrote it quite a long time ago, and
Rustin Towers, yeah.
I think you wrote it when you were at university, did you? Or
just after I left, yeah.
Yeah, and
which was years and years ago.
Yeah, that was
many
what call it
ago.
back in his day. And I guess I went to uni a couple of years after Rob, so there might not have actually been much connection, but a lot of our music is related to water and the ocean and things like that. There's always a reference in it, and actually mainly Rob that will come up with those references, whereas I was the one who did the degree in oceanography. But I think it is just purely coincidental more than anything.
I feel like, Simon, you probably lend some much-needed kind of scientific accuracy to my metaphors about rivers and the sea.
You know what I thought of when I read that about you? That oceanography is. We interviewed an artist, and she's fantastic. She's a fiber artist, but she does all kinds of other interesting things. But she's done these residencies at sea where they go and they go to the Arctic and Antarctica and all these places, and they are reading what's going on in the ocean. And so her art from it was she was crocheting the actual QR codes, and then she was crocheting these designs from what the computer data was. And so you could see all the lines and everything. And I thought, well, this is interesting because don't you see kind of like what you see as in oceanography on computers and what you're reading, doesn't it kind of look at when you're producing an album or your music, that it's like here's all these things on a screen that mean nothing to any of us that don't understand it, but you guys do. You know what I mean? Is there a correlation with a computer screen with that?
Probably, yeah. I think when you're editing music and stuff, there is this sort of, it's almost like a language in itself. I think the sort of blocks of music and the sound waves and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, so I once saw one of Simon's research things that he was doing, and I can't remember what he was doing, but it was something to do with measuring the amount of something or other in the image, and he had this.
Oh,
yeah.
it was grass.
Seagrass.
But seagrass. Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Don't be in
measuring
the
the color of it.
Simon will measure it. Sorry.
And if you tease me, I'll measure you as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Take it more in the ocean.
That's a threat right there.
There's a lot of pee in swimming pools.
Well, we know that.
That's why they put saltwater pools in, so you can't tell the difference. Just kidding. Uh-oh. It's Champagne Sundays. We've gone off topic. Speaking of that, okay, so what is your champagne toast, guys? Let's start with you, Simon.
What is my champagne toast?
Yes.
Oh, as in...
What are you happy about? What do you want to, raise a glass to and say, yay?
I want to raise a glass to maybe the start of British summer or spring. It's been a long time coming.
Everyone. Summer, the world's summer.
The world's summer, yeah. I mean, I feel like this needs to be more of an international toast, which is quite a big thing to ask because obviously we're talking across both sides of the pond. But yeah, I guess a northern hemisphere summer is what I'll toast to. And sunshine. Because we've had some really bad weather in the UK right now. I mean, I feel like this is a really boring thing to toast to, but I can't think of anything else, so I'll do it anyway.
Well, you should have been out hiking with us yesterday. You would have enjoyed it. It was sunny, warm. It's beautiful out here, but we've had some crazy weather here in England too. I mean, in America, and it's on the east side, it's been crazy snow and everything. And I saw, England. You guys are in Surrey, so you're in an artist village, right? Like a artist haven. In that area.
It's quite close to. There is a what's it called? Yeah, like a kind of art centre quite nearby. I haven't actually been there though, but we're very near to London here, so we travel up there a lot and and just this general area, I guess. There are a lot of musicians like dotted around. It's quite strange actually. Someone was saying they went to the supermarket nearby and they saw one of the people from Take That just doing his weekly shop. So there's like quite a lot of sort of random, musical
Sightings.
people dotted around. Yeah.
Random sightings. Random sightings of people.
And then they wrote the song "Staring Kid." Yeah, that's it. We're going to play that. We're going to play that. Rob, what are you toasting to?
Well, I'd like to toast to travel in general, but also to a safe trip for Simon. He's actually going off to India for about 3-4 weeks tomorrow.
Wow.
So he's flying off tomorrow and doing a bit of a tour there, a non-musical tour, more of a sort of.
We'll see about that.
But,
Really? What are you doing? What are you doing in India? I've always wanted to go there. I'm curious.
I just kind of wanted to go there, to be honest. It was just a holiday, really. It's somewhere that Rob's been to 3 or 4 years ago, and everyone I've spoken to who's been to India just kind of speaks great things of the food, the culture, the scenery. It seems to just have it all. It's a place you could travel for a year and not see it all. So I feel like 1 month is only a snippet, but I wanna get started.
Awesome.
So,
enjoy. You guys have to come back and report. I want to hear about India. You have to come on our world parties,
we'll see.
world travel parties. You guys, I want to hear all about India. I want to know if you meditated, became a yogi. No, I'm kidding. If you saw a tiger, that would be so cool, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be cool to see a tiger in the wild?
Oh my gosh, that'd be
the most awesome
Thanks.
thing. But I toasted travel too. It is the one thing that bridges gaps in the world. It's the best form of education. And I think your music is good travel music. So I toast to that. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys again, Nancy and I both, because we know you're recording new music, right? So you get to come back on the show and tell us about your new album?
Oh, definitely will be. Yeah, of course.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining us. And everyone going between, there's that pond between America and England. Just for Simon's sake, don't pee in the pond.
The fish will know. The fish will certainly know.
Yeah. Simon will know. Simon tells,
They'll measure you.
Everybody,
you'll put it on Facebook.
We're going to play Staring Kid, and then we're going to talk about bar slang in Italy. How about that? Sounds good for us on the show today.
Here's a list of everybody who peed in the ocean on Facebook.
Right. Given to the Russians, and now we have. Okay. Anyway, don't start.
Yeah.
We're going to play Staring Kid.
Russia would love.
Staring Kid, again, everybody from Sandtimer-band, and you can follow them on bandcamp.com. Just type in sandtimer-music.bandcamp.com. They're also on Facebook under Sandtimer-music, Twitter at sandtimer-band, and they're also at sandtimer.weebly.com. Thank you guys for joining us. You take care and safe travel,
Thanks so much
Simon.
for having us on the
Thank
show.
you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. See if I care, and I know that you've seen it. I'm from the West and life gets on my chest, and God alone knows how I feel. Having nothing, a relative grin. We're all scared of life in some way. The day is so slow to return from the dark, and all of us know how we need it.
hell of a lick in its face. There are too many lads still with shut up the race. There are too many places to go. You kids, you see through me, oh maybe you don't. I understood now at your age. There's no reason for thinking that you are the same. I'll move on the wiser and still, see if I can still.
Everyone, again, that was Staring Kid by Sandtimer over in Surrey, England, and you can keep up with them on Bandcamp, Facebook, SoundCloud, all those great places, and can really hear the Appalachian influences there. But now we're going to go to Italy, right? Well, we're going to go to the East Coast to get to Italy, and we're going to learn how to swear, because we don't know how to do that over here. Stay tuned. We've got an awesome guest joining us next. So sometimes when you're traveling to a foreign land, you think you know things from what you were taught in school, and then you find out that's not how they say it, and they're actually speaking. The people that you're hanging out with are speaking in a slang term or just their local dialect. And so Gabrielle-Euvino is joining us on Big Blend Radio Champagne Sunday show today to talk about her book, What They Didn't Teach You in Italian Class, Slang Phrases for the Cafe, Club, Bar, Bedroom, Ball Game, and more. It's one of the new editions of the What They Didn't Teach You in Class series by Ulysses Press, and that series also includes books covering French, German, Russian, and Spanish. Of course, you can get them on Amazon, Goodreads, all those great places. Gabrielle is an adjunct professor of Italian and cross-cultural communications. She's a professional translator and interpreter. She's going to teach me how to say her name correctly. And she's the author of several books on learning Italian, including The Complete Idiot's Guide to Learning Italian. So welcome to the show, Gabrielle. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Buongiorno.
Well, buongiorno. So now, did I say your name correctly, or do I need help?
Yes, you did. It really depends on where we are, but here in the States, it's Gabrielle in Italia. So as long as it's said with love.
Oh, I love that. And Euvino, because does that mean you have wine in your family? Like heritage?
My father was very proud of our name. He used to say it means fine wine.
Oh, yes.
So
I like it.
I wish I were more of a connoisseur in wine, because I do have the name for it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, and you belong on Champagne Sundays. You know, some of the best wines we've had have come from Italy. You know, we had Ruffino, the winemakers, on our show when we first started our show years ago, and
yummy wine.
It was so fascinating to hear just about Italy, which I've never been to Italy, and I just find we've had a lot of travel writers that come on our shows talk about it, and to me, it seems so historic and cultural, and part of, you know, even going through your book, which is so super fun. And I think with
Thank you.
Spring break travel, whether all ages, but especially for a younger generation getting out there and travel, it's going to be a fun way of learning. But what I got from your book is that we actually need to understand the culture to understand the language.
Exactly. And how do you learn about the culture but through the language?
Yeah,
which you don't get in the textbook, because it wouldn't be an appropriate form for that, and yet it is the most sort of real, vital part of language. It's the most elemental. You know, when you hit your thumb with a hammer, you know, butterfly. You know, you don't. You know. It's natural. It's part of our DNA, I think, and so I kind of just tried to tap into that from both from a cultural and anthropological perspective and a linguistic perspective, but making it super real and fun. And I hope I've been successful.
I think so. It's fun because I get to say culo now, and I learned culo living in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
I got to say it. I wanted to say it. I said it at the beginning of the show, and I'm saying it again. Culo, culo, culo.
Oh, that's really funny. That's really funny. Well, that's also called the end of a piece of bread.
Oh, really?
It's called the culo.
That's the butt end.
It's the butt.
It's the butt of the bread.
Yes.
The heel. See, we're Americans, so
it's
we
actually
say
not
heel.
as vulgar when you actually look at how we use language in English. You're not thinking of a little tiny hiney on the end of your bread there. It's the butt. It's the end. It's like an elbow.
Now I'm looking at an elbow a completely different way. It's Joe the plumber.
No, isn't this
well, this is what happens to me, too. After a while,
we're a Puritan nation.
Okay.
I mean, really, when you think our history is puritanical, and so we're pure, and so we're not going to do anything, I mean, that's natural.
Well,
well, I did a term paper on
I never thought about the word before.
Yeah.
See, I learn something every day in every conversation because of etymology.
Yeah. Oh. See, that's cool.
So, but I mean, I did a term paper on the F word because it's really an abbreviation, and we were always in so much trouble for saying it that we just said it more because the more trouble you got in, the funnier it was. And so this country has. Yeah, I'm going to ask you now about Italy. Do they care about swearing as much as we care about it here?
Well, of course they do. I mean, it's blasphemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go to profound, and that's where, and in the book I really tried to clarify, like, don't use this language, but know when it's used what it means, right?
Right.
And I had to figure out categories so that I could sort of include everything that was important and also distance myself from its usage, which was a tough balance as a writer. Yeah. There were, and I think there still are, laws on using profanity in front of the public, in the public sphere. If you are certainly with an authority, there are even cases when people have been called out for using allusions to vulgar without even using the vulgar terms.
Wow.
Because and including that language and talking about it on the radio, it's very different in a book than it is on the radio because I realize anyone who's been in, and I argue with my own kid about this. I did find myself swearing more after I wrote the book.
Because it's
like
fun.
Something
I mean,
was liberated in me, I guess,
Because the language is such a it's musical, and it can go different ways. In South Africa, I learned Afrikaans, and we always said, and you talk about Italian almost being a vulgar language in your book. In South Africa, Afrikaans to me is like one of those best languages. If you want to swear about something, it's like it's got the r and the chas and the there's this demonstrative thing about it, and some of the stuff is so like, especially if you directly translate it, that's like really bad. Whereas it's like they will have your mother's uterus, and I can't say it. But when they but it's not meant to. It's really not uterus, but they go yomur. I mean, it's like you can't. It doesn't matter where you are. You already know someone's saying something bad.
Yeah.
Like just by the
way it's said.
It's elemental.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. It's primal speak, and we can pretend it doesn't exist, but it's there, and it's used all the time. And even by including some of the euphemisms, like my favorite, and I have to learn a lot of the English, to be honest with you. This was an education for me.
Wow.
When I shared with my brother that I was going to be writing this, he looked at me and he just started to laugh. you, because I had always been the hoity-toity in the family, and you wouldn't know that because, as you can see, I've liberated myself a little. But I learned so much about English, and actually I am inspired to do a book all about the history of swear words in general, because it's
fascinating.
It is a fascinating evolution, and then how things have come to be seen in negative ways, or how they've come to be taken back and reclaimed because of the power of a word. And this dialogue happens all over and everywhere, and it's a good one to have because it's really essential, like how we talk to each other when we're not writing a paper, when we're not presenting for work, when we're not putting a memo out, but really just how people talk to each other when they're in the kitchen and, like the book describes, everywhere else.
I think it is fascinating because it tells the history of cultures. When you look at etymology, it's so fascinating to me. And way back when I used to do jewelry design, and I got into the history of beads, and so the jewelry design went out the window, and all of a sudden I'm writing a book about jewelry, the beads, and the shells, and what this shell meant, and this color, depending on what culture. And all of a sudden it was like,
they were currency.
I'm going to end up. You'll end up doing this for the rest of your life because it's so fascinating, but it tells people's stories. In your book, what I found very interesting is we were talking about that there are gay and lesbian communities in Italy. So a lot of, if you're gay and lesbian, you're going to be wanting to look for that, right? But you have to know how to speak. Having lived in this country, we still have a lot of growth to do. In South Africa, when I was going through high school,
the world, I think.
Yeah, the world
of growing to do.
Yeah, there's a religious thing over there where it's highly religious. You have the Dutch church, and you have all these different religions, and that was what really kept people quiet about their sexuality and their love preference, and I mean people were getting hurt. So there's a way to communicate with that.
Yes, well, there are lots of ways people communicate who they are in subtle ways that I've come to appreciate. So it's interesting going back to your mention of the beads and the shells, because remember, these were the first currencies. Right? Of course,
yes.
I'm sure you came across that. And so these were the objects that people carried with them through the mountains and down into the valleys, and they were novel, and they were new, and they were useful, and they were beautiful, and they came from far away. So they came to become a currency. And that exchange is what language is, and what symbols are. And so knowing when to use language. Sometimes if you insert a particular dialect word, you would let somebody know you were from their area. Just the way somebody uses an R or makes the sound of a T or a D, all these subtleties were essential to understanding who were your friends and who were your enemies, right?
Wow.
So the way I parlay everything now, and the way I'm trying to sort of take what my particular angle is and share it more with people in a sometimes lighthearted way, but it's a really very important, essential, powerful method to step back, and realize, like, a lot of the time people may not even know what they're communicating, because one person, a color represents one thing, in another culture it means something else. One word might be used very benignly, and then you find out that a hammer isn't just a hammer in all languages. It has all sorts of other meanings. Those allusions are what get us into the body, but it is the body and the naughty that brings all of us into existence. So,
you have chapters on this.
No, but it's the profane and the sacred.
Yeah.
It's all of the above, because I also honor the sacred. And, this is why there are places and times and, sort of not condoning things, but like you mentioned, going back to if you are from a marginalized group of people, then you are probably wise to be alert to your environment, and the art, which is lost right now in the understatement.
Yeah.
Because we're all like, let's share everything. We can blog about it and talk about it and write about it and share. And people are also, like, I'm looking like, what's the most efficient communication in a world that's saturated? So then it brings you back to just multiple levels of becoming present. And I think that, like, going back to the psychological benefits of swearing, they help us vent. They let it out. When you usually express something, it's done, hopefully. And so, like, there's a lot of health benefits to it that I didn't really get a chance to talk about, but I could mention here as well in the currency of life, like your beads and shells.
Yeah, well, it's apparently you're smart too. They say geniuses come from swear, or really smart people swear. Let's put it that way.
That's quite a compliment. Thank you. Or crazy.
That's how I feel. You know, Gabrielle, this is the one thing that I find also really interesting when you talk about these subtleties. That it's so important. I think we and Jamie Kat Killan, who was on our show just over a week ago when we were talking about, she wrote Parisian Charm School, and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble because I'm a tomboy, man. But anyway, so she was talking about how Parisians talk, how there's a subtlety and a flirtatious side, and you talk about this too. And I think that we've become, now I look at our American culture, society now, Nancy and I talk about this a lot. We both talk a lot. We are outspoken and loud, but there's a loudness that there's like this wall of sound where I feel, I don't know if it's because Nancy and I spend a lot of time either writing or creating or being out in nature, but we find like people to be very loud, almost on the obnoxious level, where it's this nonstop same tone, monotone of loudness. So it's either that or you're getting emojis, and I feel like we've lost this dynamic in how we speak. And when we look at these ancient languages, Italian, French, Spanish, that we can really learn not just a new language, but actually having a dynamic to how we speak, so we actually are heard, and that people will listen longer if we have a little bit of that dynamic in culture.
That's wonderful. I commend you. I support you, and I'm honored to be in your circle here because those are the things that matter the most to me as well. And I have traveled. I've had amazing experiences around the world. I mean, truly gorgeous experiences in all walks of life, and the shared humanity of being here in this world at this time is a constant kind of miracle to me, that I could get into a machine that would carry me through the sky, bring me into a completely different world with a different language. And I went looking to feel like a foreigner, actually. I wanted to know what it was like to stand out, let's say, to be an outsider. And here's what I discovered. No matter where I went, I felt included. So the bounty and the generosity of strangers, with me bearing all this good intentions, showed me that our common experience is universal, and we've just never had so much exposure at once. And I think it's overwhelming, but learning a second language is to learn your own language. You can't understand your own culture until you step out of it. You can't understand anything. Alan Watts talks about this, the contrast of existence and all of this law of attraction, whatever the Christian belief system.
Walking through the door and then realizing there was none.
Buddhist, but it's all of the people that were coming in contact with the stranger. And there are countless examples in history. In Italy, being in the middle of what was the earth, the middle of the earth, Mediterranean, right? Mediterraneo, in the middle of the earth. So it was a crossroads, and it still is a crossroads of all places, all cultures, all languages. And so these guttural sayings that you would hear through the street, like those are the first words you learn because those are the ones that people are just uttering left and right, as they live their lives. And then somebody thought, let's write some of this down. And those books were banned for a long time. Boccaccio, who wrote the Decameron, he was banned for centuries. So if you don't know who he is, he's worth checking out if you're interested in Italian culture and history. He was like the bad boy of the Middle Ages Renaissance in terms of his language. And this was the vulgar language, meaning it was the language of the people. Not vulgar the way we think of it, but vulgar meaning of the people, like the Vulcans. I think Star Trek even took the name probably from this. Like when you start looking at language, you find it exactly. Everywhere.
When I want to go back to what you said about, you felt welcome everywhere you went. And Lisa and I have traveled a bit, and we travel in a different kind of mode than other people. We end up living in the countries
or places.
And
we
places,
moved for a while.
Yeah, where we moved. We traveled, and then we're like, oh, let's just stay here, and kind of
that's
attitude.
Wonderful.
And what we learned was we were always surrounded by strangers to start with, and it is the attitude that you go with. That is how you are going to be treated. I used to lead tours of Americans over to Kenya before we decided to live there, and I could see in a group of people that you took over 30 at a time.
That's a big group.
And the first time I was like, I had honestly, I'd never even been to Kenya before, but I was the tour guide, which that makes a lot of sense. But I was excited to go because I wanted so much to see African wildlife.
I always wanted to go.
I had no idea of how to lead a tour or what kind of people there would be. So the first tour was a huge learning curve. The second tour I could earmark who's going to be a problem, who's going to have a bad time, who's got an attitude. And I remember on one tour taking a psychologist. Oh my gosh, what? Just stay home. Just stay home if you're going to be like that. I mean, he was so irritating, and so everybody was beneath him. And his experience, he left in 3 days because he couldn't handle the looks he got. And he got the looks because not only did he speak horribly, but and down to everybody, like it's not, can I have some bread? I don't suppose I can have some bread. There's a difference there. He looked down on people, and his body language just said, "You're beneath me." And it came off, even if you couldn't understand English, the people knew what he was doing. And so there is an attitude
that goes how you speak.
That your body language and your tone of voice, your inflection, how you look at people.
Humility is necessary to travel.
Yeah.
If it's not there to start with, then there's already an automatic reflex for those of us on the receiving end of that behavior that pushes back. The word snob, and I could be wrong about this, but I hope not, I believe means without nobility. Because
that's right.
So sin nobilitate or something Latin. So if you look at the origins, and I love this, if you look at the origins of a snob, they are the absolute opposite of noble. Because a true noble person doesn't need to push or impose or even impress or prove anything, right?
Yeah.
When you meet someone who's truly noble, those kings, queens, princes, princesses, we've all met them. These are people who they may be the janitor. Okay, it doesn't matter who that person, what their job is. You see in their eyes, they know who they are.
Yeah.
And that's
I agree.
Right?
I agree. Look at Lady Diana when we lived in England right when she was getting married to Prince Charles, and we watched how. And you look at her sons now, and everybody can have their thing about the royal family of England. That's a whole other topic. But she changed the outlook. She was a younger lady.
She's a perfect example.
Yeah. She
Perfect
she didn't care
example.
she held a child with AIDS and the child drooled on her or whatever. She didn't care about that, whereas a snob would be like, "Oh no, don't put your movies on me."
Yes, her humanity was something that was so beloved. We just, of course, we need that. We all need to know it exists, and then it's usually easier to get there ourselves. But we have to be it in order to elicit it. So I call upon everyone who wants that to continue to, like, what do you do? How do you change a hateful person into somebody who's loving? How do you?
You don't become a hateful person back to them.
Yeah.
Well,
you
that's
just
right.
keep
And
representing the good.
The truth of whatever it is, like, truth is so arbitrary, I suppose, but the truth of any situation, it always rises to the surface. It's there, and it gets I can't even say the word obfuscated a lot by doublespeak and rhetoric and that's propaganda and all of this. But if you become a cunning linguist, and you look
girl.
at and you look at the language from all angles, and you say, all right, something, I'm going to be the change. I'm going to be what I want to resonate in the world. And then if you can make people laugh, because you could be the most righteous person on the planet, if you're not fun, people are going to tune you out.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
right.
That's why we have champagne on Sundays.
So you gotta have
it's about
some attitude and some bubbles.
Have some sass.
Have some bubbles. That's right.
Well, that's I wanted to touch on this too, going back to the etymology of a word, and also when you were talking about nobility and versus snobbery, right? Because it's interesting how the snobs took over. Like, ooh, look at me. It's the takeover of the wannabes, or the has-beens later. But what is interesting to me, and you've got a chapter on dining and desserts, and we talk about we've got all the cooking channels and all that, and the one thing I wanted to touch on when you were talking about it's the language of the common people, would be the vulgar term or slang, or it's a local dialect. This is how and one side of Italy will be different than the other side, right? How happens, but it is about the common people, and it's so funny because in food, you look at now, especially in Europe, peasant food is now being celebrated as like we should be doing this because we're using all the animal parts and all the parts of a vegetable, or you know what I mean? And now it's being celebrated in like, wow, gee, we don't have to be snobs and not eat everything that has been grown or raised, kind of thing.
I think,
so there's, it's interesting. It's the same
snobbery
to me.
is always coming, take a psychological perspective. It's almost always coming from a really deeply embedded inferiority complex.
Insecurity, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's where bullies come from.
So even, your participant in that trip was probably just so terrified, of the world that he has to control everything. But I wanted to just back up and say this is not the language of the common people, even if that's what I said. That really what I want to say is commonly spoken.
Yes.
Because no one is common. If we're all still the center of our own universe, right? So, I mean, somebody might say, I'm just an average person, but that just means you share a lot with people. But we commonly spoken language, which is the origins of everything, of community, communion, commune, all the cooperative enterprises require this commonality, which is language.
It's the lingo.
It's the lingo. So in Italy, before people traveled, they all lived in mountainous areas, and it was hard to get there. And so all these dialects cropped up, and it was all coming from Latin, and all of these various visitors through Rome, which was 2,000 years ago. It had 1 million inhabitants. Just to understand what that meant then. We take it for granted now, but it was today you can go to Rome and you can feel how it was 2,000 years ago. You can find those old walls. You can find those remnants. And so the language are those seeds, those shards of history that have come with us through time, that are metaphors. So they're living, jagged, spoken word poetry. And so when you look at it from that perspective, there's no shame because you're recognizing it. It's just simply
giving a place in history, in life now.
Who decided, like, okay, that's a swear word, that isn't. That's a really crude word, that isn't. You know, who decided what was a good word and what was a bad word?
That's a great question. There's a wonderful movie called Cinema Paradiso. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I highly recommend it. And there's a mastered and a remastered version. It's got all the elements of Italian film, drawing from the neorealists and Fellini. But in that movie, there's a priest with a bell who actually sits in a movie theater and rings the bell, censoring those first movie clips.
No way.
And it's a very humorous look at the times and how life progresses and things change. But who was he? He was the town priest, and he was protecting the younger people from what were adult behaviors. And like even censorship still had in its root kind of a desire to protect. So everything is still coming from fear. So who decides? The people just start using stuff, and you hear it, and it's usually, like you said, you know the swear words even if you don't understand what they're saying. You know if somebody's swearing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? In any language, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So
in
somebody
South Africa, I had
to write it down.
In South Africa, I had some employees when we had a magazine there, and some spoke Afrikaans. Mostly they spoke English because that's what I spoke, and they were English speaking. But when they wanted to swear, or they didn't want me to know what they were saying, they spoke Afrikaans, but I could still tell. But I didn't really care. And then I had one employee whose daughter would show up before the end of the workday, and she came to me and was like, "They're swearing, and I don't want my daughter to hear that." So I said, "Well, that's easy. Don't have your daughter show up while you're still at work." Because they were happy, and it was a big joke, and I really didn't know pretty much what they were saying. I really didn't care because they were doing their job and doing it well. And it was interesting because she was highly, highly offended about the language being used. And she said she came from the best of the best families.
Oh, here we go.
And we cannot tolerate this. We, the royal we, cannot tolerate this kind of language. 2 days after, her father was in the newspaper for embezzling money from a baseball club that he had purchased. So I was like, that's the best, swear on.
And it's interesting.
Well,
that's
the
royal
hypocrisy.
we. Yeah. What is it with that? We.
The royal we.
It's almost like you can't
the
just
royal
back up
we.
your own thing.
Yeah. The royal we. Well,
it's like we're not going to go on our own.
We
have to have the whole family.
Yeah, it's just not my opinion. It's everybody's but yours.
Yeah, exactly.
We believe. I think that's called gaslighting. We all believe. It doesn't matter what you believe. We. That's intimidating, right?
It's interesting. Gabrielle, I want to ask, what led you into the world of language? Because it's to me, it's really fascinating, and I get everything muddled up because, like I said about Kulo, and I was laughing about that because it was one of the first things they taught me in Mexico. And going from Mexico, we'd only been in this country about a year and a half, and then lived in Mexico. And I actually was having a hard time with learning Spanish, but I was learning from the people, which was interesting and so much fun. However, and we had friends that came over that spoke Castilian, Spanish, and they were having a hard time. But the reality was the Kulo. Okay, so now this is one of the first things I saw in your book, and I started giggling. I'm like, yay! But in Spanish, I was having a hard time because some of the words were the same as in Afrikaans over in Africa because of it's the Latin language
I meant the same
all
thing.
over.
Yeah, I meant the same.
Pretty much,
pretty much.
They shared etymological roots then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Italy went everywhere. in history.
And if there's a publisher listening now, I would love to do a children's book on etymology.
On swearing?
Yeah. No, etymology. No, I love
etymology. Yeah, because entomology, do you know what the difference is between entomology and etymology?
One's insects.
Brava. That's right. That's right.
Nature geek here.
I'm a nature person.
And we're in the desert. We have scorpions. We study it.
This is where we would start. Oh, we could do a whole show on it, actually, because it what this does when you look at etymology and why I'm so curious about language starts with my childhood. I always wanted to learn. I loved language so much. I used to make up language, like as a kid, pretending I could speak a foreign language.
That's cool.
And I would do this with my friends, and we could understand each other perfectly fine, speaking Babel. You know.
Okay. You know what? The language for you is Swahili, and the reason I say that this is so much fun.
Okay.
When we went to Kenya, we had to learn. Well, we didn't have to, but we elected to try to learn Swahili, and I thought this is going to be so easy. At the time there was only 150 words, so how hard can that be? Well, and it's so much fun. Because in Swahili, because there's only 150 words, everything was a big story. And they're like, how come it takes 2 hours for a person to tell you something and for you to understand it when there's only 150 words? Because you had to sit and listen, and like they would tell you, like airmail is there's a piece of paper, somebody wrote some words on it, we're not sure what it means yet, and then it gets in this big bird that looks like it's made out of iron, and then it floats over the land and the sea, and we don't know how it does it, and then when it thinks it should land, and it goes on and on and on until you get the letter. And then somebody else will tell you a whole different story about what airmail means. It's crazy because it is really creative in that you are so limited to just 150 words that you have to sit and listen to the story to know what the person's trying to say. I love it.
I love it too. And they probably didn't do a lot of gossiping because
I don't know about that.
2 hours out of their day to tell the story.
Well, I think they gossip. They could look at each other and go, there's like shortcuts.
Yeah, there's
shortcuts to it. But that's what's so interesting. But I want to go back to etymology versus entomology. Like you were saying that, going back as a kid, I mean, is that something you would do in a children's book, that you would put the two together? So that
I would put my daughter does this now in school, and it's helped her enormously with her memory retention. And truly, I believe this could revolutionize the way children learn. And we don't get a lot in school on how to actually acquire information.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I'm really interested in, language acquisition and what's efficient communication. So Swahili, for example, is an incredibly efficient language considering the elements it has to work with.
Right.
English and etymology and entomology, and going back to the Latin and the Germanic roots that we have in English, brings you automatically into the greater world. So by looking at roots and looking at prefixes and endings, you can instruct anybody to be aware of it. And then once you're aware of it, you don't have to learn all the time over and over again. It's like you have this pair of glasses, you put them on, now you see things in a certain way, and everything goes from there. So it's very, it's a good use of your time because it's paradigm. So take, for example, my brother and I were having a conversation years ago, and he said, okay, so what's the difference, he said, between oviparous and viviparous? Your nature, people.
It has to do with how the snakes give birth, or not just snakes, sharks do it. It's a live birth or eggs.
Smell and taste.
And birth.
This is fun.
Don't eat the birth.
It's the difference between a boa constrictor and a python.
Right.
Yeah, it's the birth. Yeah.
Okay, so a python is an oviparous snake, and a boa constrictor is
viviparous.
It's a viviparous. Right.
Yeah.
So one gives live birth, one lays eggs.
See, I win, Nancy. I get another bottle of champagne.
This is what I do. I look out at nature and I talk to the birds and I think about these things. But there's real value in it, because if you're trying to learn, and there's so much stuff to know out there, so many great things to know, more and more now, we have all the libraries of the entire world available to us. We can't possibly know everything. So I think we're going to become specialists, and my specialty is how people transcend time and distance through language. And I think that's a noble pursuit, because it's common, everybody does it, and I was actually writing down some notes about my inspiration. Can I just share with you?
Sure. Go ahead.
I said, I wrote, this is my scribble, language is the singularly most important element for the evolution of our species. Yet we take it for granted. We use it and things happen. But when we began writing, we were able to communicate over distance and time, just a bunch of lines, and the world changed. And then I wrote art and the alphabet and architects. So, when you look at language as like air for humans, like we could not do anything without it, then by just taking one element, it's dirty, it's naughty, it's bawdy, and guess what? I just got your teenager curious to know about a foreign language, and they start giggling, and they start reading, and then they find a book on it, and they go, oh, this stuff's funny, and I want to go get an ice cream, and they're 18, and they're 19, and they're 20, and they're 57, and 60, and they're still laughing, then I think people should have more fun with grammar. It doesn't have to be this dry, pedantic, a lexicon of what we consider to be maybe an elitist sort of platform. It is vital that one knows the difference between legal language and what you can speak in the street. That's essential for the world. Like anybody that doesn't understand that isn't going to be able to function at maximum efficiency in the world. But if you are going into a little bodega somewhere, or you're in a little tiny shop somewhere, and you just want to be able to banter about, then I say listen to the people, listen to how they talk. Two friends talking about, smack talk about their other friend, or somebody complaining about their partner.
Cool.
Or,
it is cool.
It's cool to understand.
Well, but I think it's so important because it's about being personal versus there's the stuff that you do if you're in Italy on business, or any country on business. It's a little different about what needs to be in your contract and things like that.
Exactly.
But it's really important to understand what people are saying around you. Number one, it's important no matter what. Just out of you talk about fear.
Safety.
One of the first things to get over fear is to educate yourself, and also drop your barriers a little bit and get out of your comfort zone so you can understand what's going on around you and connect. And that is the thing. I think what I love your book because it does drop that stuffiness, and people need to drop that when they travel, because you're not going to have a good time if you're stuffy when you travel, because travel will boot you out of your stuffiness.
Comfort zone.
It will do it, and you might as well be a little bit prepared. And I don't know about you, but the reality is you are going to go to a bar or a cafe, or if you're traveling and you don't go to a place where you're actually communicating with people, you've missed the entire point of travel.
Yeah, that's a different kind of experience. No, it sounds like we've had all of us very similar attitudes going out into the world, which is I'm a visitor, I'm open, and it's very difficult to leave your comfort zone. Every time I go on a trip, almost always, just before I go on the trip, and it's been a little while, I get so nervous. And I think, oh, my God, am I forgetting something? Is the house going to burn down while I'm gone? What's going to happen? Why did I think I was going to have it all together? I haven't paid the bills. And then I want to just cancel. And then I leave, and I get where I have to be, and let's say I'm in Italy, and this world just recedes, and I'm present. I'm in the moment, and it's wonderful. So
that's cool, because you don't want to bring all that with you.
Exactly.
But and the thing is, I just want to say this. Even though we're talking about swearing, which
part of it,
I don't. It just because you're aware of what certain words mean never means you have to use them. And in the travels I've had, especially as women, I would be careful about using swear words and vulgarities.
Yes.
But it's good to know what someone's really saying, about you or around you, and just so you know what's going on.
It's also in the movies. It's on television.
Yeah. So and it is kind of the base way of this is what's going on right now. This is where the culture is right now. To understand is power.
Here's the thing too. I say take your book and read it. And number one, it's just fun. It is such a fun book to read and to say things outside of your total normal comfort zone of language, right? And it's fun to say. And I think that we should be watching Italian movies or shows to hear it. Like, don't you think we should be doing that? Does that help with learning?
Oh, yeah.
And use that with your book?
It's like She Got the Belly.
If you don't know that, what is that? What's her name was in that?
Sophia Loren.
And she's what was the movie? But we'll never forget.
I can't remember, but I used to remember all the kids
She's
going, She got the belly. She got
anyway.
the belly.
What was she doing?
She was walking on the beach, and she was pregnant, and all the kids were running around going, "She's got the belly." I don't know the movie was, but that's stuck in our. We've said this for years, and nobody knows what we're talking about. But it's
Steve Schreiker, our Hollywood history.
We'll ask him.
He'll ask him. But she was walking, and she was pregnant, and she was in Italy, I believe, and all the kids were. She got the belly. She got the belly, and we thought it was the funniest thing.
I'm gonna have to look for this.
I know. I'm gonna have to look now
somebody,
too.
We're like in the supermarket. She's got the belly.
I know. Don't say it to her because you can get in trouble. Never congratulate a woman on being pregnant if you don't know she's pregnant.
Yeah, but she got the
belly.
Yeah,
right?
Oh my
they
gosh.
They do love their mommies in Italy, and they love mothers. I could definitely say that. I had some fun when I was researching all the different ways that common objects have, and this is another reason why you might want to pick up the book, is to just know what fruits and vegetables have other meanings, because you might very innocently make a comment and a whole room will start to laugh. And you want to know what they're laughing at.
Banana's a good one.
Yeah, we learned that.
That's
we
universal.
said that
It's a smiley face, right?
Well, no. When we were in South Africa, we said this at the top of the show, so forgive us listeners for saying this again, but we did a tour of South Africa with Nancy's art, and the head of the tourism bureau decided to teach her Afrikaans, and this is when we were first in the country, and so she stood up all proud, like, I've learned my first Afrikaans saying, and it is "Wat doen jou pisang in my vrugte sly." And later, everybody started laughing, and Nancy thought, she's connecting with people. Well, she found out that it means, what is your banana doing in my fruit salad? So when you say fruits and vegetables, like for us, we know. You better know.
Fruits and vegetables. And knowing what the euphemisms are, because they're real. And there's silliness. There's a lot of silliness that happens when you start looking at language this way.
That's a fun part. I think.
Well, if I had a book like yours, I would never have said it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really was, especially when there were a lot of misogynistic terms, and here I am. And most of these books are written by guys. And the first time I started looking around, they were very scatological, and so I'm like, how do I not, like, how do I approach this without saying I believe this is something you can say, because this is not something I would ever want someone to use for me or around me or anybody I care about. And then I realized, I could just make lists of what not to say. So throughout the book, I have, here's what you should never say in front of somebody's mother or sister.
No, yeah, right. See, that goes down
or
to the
daughter.
mother's uterus again.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is my own way of saying, don't say this in front of any woman. Okay?
Yeah.
This is, so I included it, but then it was like, here's what not to say in church. Here's what not to say, you moron. You know?
Yeah. So,
idiot,
Gabrielle, at this time, we got to ask you what your champagne toast is. What are you happy about?
Oh, I have. All right, champagne. I actually have a champagne toast to a few people, if I may, because there's just been a lot of really great stuff happening around here, and I would have to thank the Ulster County Italian American Foundation for being part of it, and also Radio Kingston, because I've been co-hosting a show now called Tutto Italiano on Radio Kingston 1490, thanks to Jimmy Buff. And I love my job at the Culinary Institute because I get to be around all these amazing kids and the chefs and the administration. It's just such an incredible organization that blends the best of all worlds in my mind: food, language, learning, history.
She said the blend.
Yeah, you said blend, so we give you an extra champagne toast for that.
And of course, thank you. And you are the blend. So what a pleasure it's been to talk to you. I hope we get to speak soon, and maybe we can take a trip together.
Okay, let's go party. We'll go. Let's go to Italy.
We'll go
Let's go to
somewhere
Italy. You want to go to Andiamo in Italia?
Oh,
can we go to Italy?
I like that.
Let's go. I'll take you.
Okay.
I would
we'll
love
go.
to go to Italy with you. You want to go?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I want to go.
Yeah.
Okay, before you go,
if
you were to take a 1 hour walk, because we're all about people getting out and taking a walk, and you were to take a 1 hour walk anywhere in Italy, where would it be?
Oh, I would take a walk through Rome.
With who?
With who? Oh my gosh. In Italy, my friend Giovanni Destillo.
So it's Giovanni, not Giovanni.
Giovanni, yes, he's a tour guide, and he's amazing. He works for EF Tours, and he's a dear friend, and he knows everything about everything. And he's smart and kind, and truly one of the wisest people I've ever met. So, yeah, I'd like to walk through Rome with you, Giovanni.
Ooh, I want to go around saying that. That sounds like
no, he's not that. No, Giovanni, and I love his wife. I love his family. We are very connected. Please don't. No.
I know. I'm just teasing you.
We
But here's the
studied
other
together
thing,
30 years ago. We were young students in Italy together in Urbino.
That's
and
cool.
we've had a friendship all these years, and they are my dear his wife Ermeline, and I love that family. So if I had an hour to walk around with somebody who could really tell me so much about the history and the place in all languages, because he speaks like 8 or 10 of them, that would be Giovanni.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. Everyone, Gabrielle-Euvino, it's E-U-V-I-N-O. Google her. She's got like 20,000 books on Italy. She knows everything on this, so go check her out. But this is the latest. What they didn't teach you in Italian class, slang phrases for the cafe, club, bar, bedroom, ball game, and more. So check it out. It's through Ulysses Press, and I think it's so cool that they did this series, too. So check it out, and, of course, go to Amazon, all those great places to get the book. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, and thank you both, and thank you especially to Ulysses Press for making all of this happen.
Absolutely. Well, how do I say goodbye now?
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Did I do that right?
Brava, sì, and ciao.
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 The world now, man. This is exciting.
I know, it's so much
fun. What a
fun.
great conversation. I mean, when you think about it, every word means something.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to, and get her book. It's so much fun to read. Even if you don't go to Italy, just expand your mind with it and expand that understanding. So when you do watch Italian movies, you'll get it more. How about that? Or your Italian friends here in America.
Yeah.
So it's just a cool thing. I want to thank everyone for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Champagne Sunday show. We air Sunday through Friday, except for holidays and weekends. From Monday through Thursday, we air at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday and Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can get our full schedule if you go to bigblendradio.com. We're also on Twitter at Big Blend Mag and Facebook under Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. And, of course, the best thing is just go to blendradioandtv.com. You'll get everything there. Our next show coming up this week, we have Active Listening for Parents with Sarah Elliston, the author of Lessons from a Difficult Person, How to Deal with People Like Us. That is March 26th, Monday, March 26th. Tuesday, March 27th, we're going to hear all about St. Simon's Island in Georgia with travel writer Debbie Stone. And March 28th, the Price Sisters. Oh, man, they're the torchbearers of traditional bluegrass, and their new album is out now. It actually went out on March 23rd, and it's called A Heart Never Knows. So stay tuned for that. And everybody, again, bigblendradio.com, thank you for joining us. We're going to play a song dedicated to all the students who gathered this last Saturday, March 24th. And this is a song called Captain America from Nikki Chris. It's all about spread love, not hate. Hashtag that. And also being your own superhero. And whether, it's about really standing up for what you believe in. Let's do it peacefully and come to a common decision, a decision that everybody wants to see, I think, Not everybody. In other words, let's get to this at a peaceful way. Let's get to a resolution on what should happen with shootings and gun control in schools and safety in schools in a peaceful way. And take care of our kids. So everybody, again, this is Captain America. You can go to NikkiChris.com, and that's NICKIKRIS, NikkiChris.com. I'm not spelling it out because I need to learn how to spell it. It's just there's a lot of different ways of saying Nikki and Chris. So NikkiChris.com. Thanks for joining us. Here it is, Captain America. Let's all be superheroes.
Sleepy boy turned quickly into a man, wants to do what's right the best that he can.